We're here with the Ventures, Bob Bogle and Don Wilson. You met in Seattle, Washington, isn't that correct?
Yes, I was originally from Portland, Oregon. I was working for a company in Portland doing a construction job. I was in the bricklayer's trade. And when that job was finished, they invited me to come to Seattle. I needed a new car, so I wandered into the car lot nearby, and there's where I met Don selling cars.
And what kind of cars were you selling?
I was selling used cars. As a matter of fact, I was washing them and keeping them running during the day. And then I was a salesman, and after 6 o'clock, I put on a suit and sold cars, but I was a terrible salesman. When Bob came in and we talked for a while, we seemed to have some common interests and a good rapport. He would go to a car and say, gee, how's this one? I'd have to tell him, you don't want that car. So I wasn't doing very well. I was too honest.
First, it was just a duo, right?
Yes. We were working in clubs for several months, just the two of us. No bass and no drums. And keeping our day jobs in construction, it was killing us. We first bought a couple of guitars in a pawn shop. They weren't very good, but they were cheap and they were electric. And that was a big, giant step.
When we decided that we wanted to make a record, my mom, Josie Wilson, got interested in trying to make it happen, give us a career in music. We would have been happy to just pick up nothing heavier than a guitar pick after construction work, because that's awful hard work. She went around to the stations, and then she wound up being our co-producer with Bob Reisdorf on our early records.
We were working in clubs at night and construction at daytime. We had no time for anything. She really did a lot to help us get started in the business.
They treat you like the Beatles in Japan. I was lucky enough to see you over there. How would you analyze the secret of your success in Japan?
When we first went to Japan, guitars and guitar instrumentals probably were hardly heard of. First time we went over there, we went with Bobby V and a girl named Joanne Campbell, and actually she was the headliner. It was just Bob and I, just the two of us. We had a bass and drums that were Japanese, the Japanese musicians. Mm-hmm. And it was a stand-up bass. They'd never heard of, at that time, an electric bass. The people seemed to really like us. The next time we went there, in 1964, we didn't know how popular we were. We know that they had been playing our records. There were maybe 5,000 people at the airport. When we got off the plane there, I mean, it looked like some dignitary on the plane or something, and we got closer to the people, and they had these big banners that said, "Welcome the Ventures."
You've had a lot of hit records like Walk Don't Run, Hawaii Five-0, and Perfidia. Tell us about the U.S. career.
We just got ourselves a car and a trailer, like a U-Haul, and put all of our amplifiers. The reason a lot of people hired us is because there were a lot of singers, and we were hired to play our hit and back them up. We were kind of used, but at that time we enjoyed it. We thought it was fun. And we were sometimes gone for 6 months at a time.
Where was the turning point where you really felt like we are a success?
Well, I don't know that I've come to that turning point. Well, we've been successful. There's no doubt about that. I'm kidding with that. I suppose when we probably did our first album that did very well, we were told that usually you're good for 1, 2 albums, maybe, or 3, and then you're history. But that didn't happen to us. We just kept trying to change and play a little bit different music.
I felt that we had reached a degree of success during Walk Don't Run, our very first single. Our producer, the fellow that helped us get into the business, Bob Reisdorf, told us, you guys are going to be really big. You're going to have some longevity here. So I just assumed at that point that we had achieved success.
What's up for the future?
I'd like to do a lot more writing, especially in movies and TV music themes.
A lot of people think some of the things that we have done sound like movie themes that we've written.
Tell us about Jerry McGee.
We first met Jerry in about 1968. Noki Edwards wanted to pursue his own career, and we got to know Jerry, and he really fit into the group, both in appearance and also his style of playing. And he's an amazing guitarist, as you know. He was a very successful studio musician before we met him.
Isn't it true that he played the famous lick on Last Train to Clarksville?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's
cool. He played all the Monkees things before they started playing their own instruments, and he's played on Presley's things, a lot of different artists.
He was with Chris Christopherson 5 years, did touring with him, recording so many celebrities that he's worked with in studios.
Tell me about Mel Taylor.
We first met Mel I believe it was either the latter part of 60 or maybe the early part of 61. We were getting ready to do a Wink Martindale show in Pacific Ocean Park, Santa Monica, and we ran into the leader of the band at the Palomino Club. His name was Gene Davis. We were buying some fancy jackets to do the Wink Martindale show with Duane Eddy. So he invited us out to the Palomino Club. After the TV show, Don and I went out to the Palomino. We walked into the club, and Gene Davis recognized us, and he asked us to come up and sit in. And we said, well, we'd like to, but we don't have our full band here. So Mel was there, and he said, well, I'm the drummer. He said, I know your hit. We had Walk Don't Run was big at the time. So we got up on stage, and he kicked it off perfectly. We did 3 or 4 songs. So we kind of stayed in touch. Eventually, Howard Johnson left the group for a number of reasons. He had been in a serious auto accident, and he decided he couldn't tour anymore, so he decided to quit the group. So Mel Taylor came into the group about 62 or 63. He was a very dynamic drummer. He was known in Japan as Mr. Dynamic.
Tell us about how you got involved with surf music and what you think of the surf music idiom and how it relates to the Ventures.
I read something once. They said that actually the very first surfing song with that sound was Walk Don't Run, but they didn't call it surfing then. I think surfing music came in about 62, I'm not sure. It just seemed to fit what we did before. If you just add a little reverb on the lead guitar and some clicky sounds with the rhythm guitar, I think that's the basis of surfing. Anyway, like Pipeline. It fit what we played nicely. It happened to be one of our biggest albums called Surfing. Now we have it released on Crescendo. It's doing very well.
You've really created a lot of surf standards. Pipeline is one of your strongest titles, and you've sold a lot of records with that. Mm-hmm. And Wipeout you did a tremendous job with.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Surf Rider was a smash in Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
You've really created the language of the idiom.
Many people think of us as a surf band. We're a band that does play surf music as well as others, but we've really never thought of ourselves as a surf band per se, because we play all types of music. We even had Underground Fire album out, bordering on heavy metal.
And as I've seen, you guys even sing once in a while.
On stage.
Have you sung much on your CDs?
No. We were told early in our career by Al Bennett himself, the president of Liberty Records. He told us that we have an image, a strong image, which is instrumental. He said, don't ever try to change that. You'll wreck your career.
You think that's
So
true?
We took his advice. We don't know if it's true or not, but it seems to work for us. You know?
And how would you characterize the difference in the record business in, say, early 60s to now?
The record business has changed as much as anything. When we started, we had 2-track equipment. We put the bass and drums on one track and the lead and rhythm on the other, and played it through once with no overdubs, mixed that down to monaural.
I was very excited to see in Joel Whitburn's history of the Billboard charts that you were in the top record sellers in the entire decade of the 60s.
Yes.
And that was incredible. Everyone else on that list was people like Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra and the Beatles. I know you had a lot of success in the movie Pulp Fiction with a composition called Surf Rider, which you collaborated on with Noki and yourselves. Pulp Fiction was wonderful how they used that type of music. It fit like a glove, didn't it?
Yes.
What was really neat is it created a renaissance for all types of surf or instrumental music.
It seems like the industry and the consumer have never really let go of the 60s.
It was a golden age of music. Even a lot of new bands are doing your early 60s sound.
I'll tell you, we seem to be doing as well with our career as we've ever done. We seem to be in some kind of a warp, like a time warp, that it seems like there's no end to it. You know?
If something is great, it will come back again and again, like a great movie or a great record, as a new generation discovers it.
That's true. We've played concerts where there was nothing but punkers in the audience that had just discovered us and just thought we were great.
That's really fantastic. All right, well, I look forward to seeing you guys again.
Okay.
Thank you.